Have you ever faced any unexpected SSH connection drops with the server when there are any ongoing tasks having to start over from scratch? Then here is the solution. Watch this video until the end. Hi everyone, this is Cheems. In this video, I will show you how to keep processes running after ending SSH sessions. I didn't mean to do this tutorial since this is some general usage, but in future tutorials, we will have to get something from this one. That's why I made this tutorial. When watching future tutorials, it would be helpful if you have watched this video. Okay, let's move to the topic. As tech nerds, we all use SSH tunnels to work with Linux servers more often and use them to run big tasks that take a long time to finish. This also applies to those who use the terminal on their local machine to do some long-running tasks. What if your SSH connection to the server dropped unexpectedly or you accidentally closed the terminal window you were working on? Yeah, all your tasks will be stopped and you may have to do them again from the beginning. That's where you find the importance of using GNU Screen. GNU Screen is also known as Linux Screen. It is a utility that can be used to multiplex several virtual consoles. That means you can start a screen session with your terminal and then create any number of virtual consoles within that session. We define these virtual consoles as windows. All the tasks running in Windows created within a screen session will continue even your connection is dropped. Actually, when we need screen utility. Okay, let me show you when we truly need it. There is a simple web-based file manager that can be used to manage files inside a Linux server. I use it most of the time because I don't like to connect to the server via command line every time I want to access files inside the server. I already installed that file manager on this server, so I'm going to show you when we need GNU Screen tool with a file manager instance. You don't need to worry about this file manager command, I just run it because it doesn't finish until I stop. Also, I hope to create another video to show you how to set up this file manager on your VPS. Okay, the file manager instance is running and using port 80, so we can check it with the web browser. Yeah, it works like usual. So what if we accidentally lose the connection to the server? Yeah, it stopped working. With GNU Screen utility, we can keep all the tasks running even we lost the connection to the server. I closed the terminal, so I have to log in again to the server. Okay, let me clear the output before moving to the installation instructions. Most of the time, Screen utility comes with almost every Linux distro. You can check if it is pre-installed on your distro by just executing this command. If it is available, the output will look like this. If it isn't available on your system, you can simply install it using these commands. Here you can find relevant commands for your distro. Also, the GNU Screen tool can be installed on macOS with Homebrew. Okay, let's see how to work with GNU Screen. First, I will show you how to create a screen session. To use GNU Screen, we should create a screen session. In your terminal, type screen. This will create a screen session and create a new window with the shell. Also, the screen will automatically assign a unique ID to the created session. Press enter to finish reading this paragraph. Yeah, now we are using the screen session we just created. As I said before, this is the window created with the screen session creation. The index of windows in a screen session starts from 0. So the index of the current window is 0. When you work with multiple screen sessions, session IDs can be used to identify the session you are looking for. You can use them to reattach to a screen session when you want to resume your work in that session. But it is not easy to keep a number in our mind, so instead we can create a named session. With a named session, we don't need to remember the IDs of the session. All we need to do is remember the name we provided when creating the screen session. To create a named screen session, you can run this command. I name this session as screen session. Yeah, now we are working on the named screen session. And this is the zeroth window of the current session. Also, you can have multiple windows if needed. To create another window, press Ctrl plus A, then press C. Screen utility will take you to the new window with a shell and assign the first available number from 0 to 9 to it. Since it already has reserved the number 0 for the default window, the new window will be window number 1. The next window will be window number 2. Okay, let's see what the main used key bindings for screen utility are. Actually, you don't need to know these to work with GNU Screen, but knowing these key bindings help you to get the most out of GNU Screen. If you don't mind sticking here, you can move to the timestamp shown in the video to know basic usage. Okay, as I said before, you can create a new window by pressing Ctrl plus A, then C. Suppose you have multiple windows in a screen session. In that case, you can list all available windows and switch between them by pressing Ctrl plus A, then double quotation mark. Yeah, you have to press Shift and apostrophe together to type double quotation mark. Also, to switch between windows, you can press Ctrl plus A and the number of the relevant window you want to switch to. If you currently work on window number 2 and you want to switch to window number 0, you should press Ctrl plus A, then 0. By pressing Ctrl plus A twice, you can switch between the current and the previous window. If you want to rename the current window, you should press Ctrl plus A, then uppercase A. Since it is uppercase A, you need to press Shift plus A together to type it. When you work with multiple windows and you need to see them all at the same time, you can split the screen into several regions. To split the current region vertically into 2 regions, press Ctrl plus A, then press the vertical bar. Since it is in the backward slash key, you have to press Shift and backward slash key together to type vertical bar. To split the current region horizontally into 2 regions, you need to press Ctrl plus A, then uppercase S. Yeah, Ctrl plus A, then Shift plus S. While working with multiple regions, you can switch between regions by pressing Ctrl plus A and Tab key. Suppose you want to close all regions but the current one, press Ctrl plus A, then uppercase Q. It will close all the regions except the current one. But suppose you want to close the current region, press Ctrl plus A, then uppercase X. Current region will be closed and you will be returned to the next available region. Closing regions doesn't close windows. All the windows will remain until you close them. You can see all the windows by pressing Ctrl plus A, then double quotation mark. But if you want to close a window, you can do so by typing exit in the shell. Then it will kill the window and you will be returned to the next available window. If you only have one window, after typing exit, the screen session will be terminated and you will be returned to the main console where you created the screen session from. Suppose you have created multiple windows but you want to terminate the screen session without closing all available windows one by one. In a case like that, you can press Ctrl plus A, then backward slash. These are the mainly used key bindings, but you can do basic things with GNU Screen without knowing them. Okay, next let me show you how to detach from a screen session. Actually, this is the main reason we use GNU Screen for. Yeah, we can detach from screen sessions and terminate SSH connections or the terminal windows without killing ongoing tasks. We can detach from a screen session by pressing Ctrl plus A, then D. Let me show you running the same task I ran at the beginning of the video. Yeah, the file browser example, but this time with GNU Screen utility. Here you can see the running task. Now I'm going to detach from the current session by pressing Ctrl plus A, then D. After detaching, you will be returned to the main console where you created the screen session from. And your task inside the detached screen session will continue. Now I open the file browser with my web explorer. Yeah, it still works even I close the SSH connection. Next, I will show you how to reattach to a screen session. When you have running task in a screen session and you think having a break is good, now you know how to detach from a screen session. So you can come later and check if your task is completed. Since I closed the SSH connection, I have to log into the server again. If you have only one detached screen session, you can simply run this command. But if you have multiple detached screen sessions, it will show you that there are more than one. In case of that, we should use the ID of the screen session to reattach to it. You can run this command to see all available sessions. Actually, this is the correct command to list available sessions. The previous command showed the same because the utility couldn't identify which session we were requesting for. If you want to reattach to the unnamed session, which has the ID 13398, you can run screen-r, then the ID of the relevant session. Yeah, this is it. Next, I will show you how to reattach to a named session. I detach from this and go back. There is some text wrapping issue. That's why I always clear the previous shell output before running another command. Okay, if you created your screen session with a name, it would be easy to reattach. We don't even need to check for running screen sessions because it is real easy to remember a name instead of a number. To reattach to a named section, just run this command. Type the session name here instead of typing the ID of the session. Here I list available sessions again so you can see which screen session I am going to work with. But if you know the name of the screen session, as I said before, you can run this command without checking for the available screen sessions. Right, the task is still running. I stop it since I don't need it anymore. Next, I will show you how to terminate screen sessions. Suppose your task is completed and now you want to terminate the GNU screen session. You can simply do it. First, make sure you are inside the relevant screen session. Next, press Ctrl+A. Then press /. Then it will ask you before killing the session including all windows inside it. Press Y. Then the session will be terminated. I clear the previous output again and list available screen sessions. Yeah, this time we only have one session. Now I will show you how to close windows when we have multiple windows inside a single screen session. To show it to you, I reattach to this unnamed session. Since it is the only available session, we can reattach to it without typing its ID. Right, for now, we have only one window inside this session, so I will create a few new windows. As I said before, we can press Ctrl+A, then C to create new windows. The index of the current window is 1. I typed it because we can identify which window we are currently using. I create another window. The index of this window is 2. We can list all the windows by pressing Ctrl+A, then quotation mark. Yeah, here we can see all the windows available in this session. Also, from here, we can switch between these windows. I stay in the last created window and show you how to close a single window. Just type exit. Then it will kill the current window and you will be returned to the next available window. Suppose you have only one window inside the current session. After typing exit, the screen session will be terminated and you will be returned to the main console where you created the screen session from. Yeah, it returned me to the window number 1. Here we can see windows left in the current session. From here, I go to the window number 0. Now I'm going to terminate the entire session without closing the other window. We can press Ctrl+A, then // to terminate the screen session without closing available windows one by one. Doing so will return you to the main console. Now you know what GNU Screen is, what it is used for, and how to use it. In this video, we talked about creating screen sessions, creating windows and navigating between them, detaching from and reattaching to screen sessions. If you are willing to learn more about GNU Screen, then you can run either info screen or man screen in the terminal. Here I run man screen. It will open the user manual of GNU Screen utility. From here, you can find more information like all available commands and key bindings. You can navigate through with arrow keys and exit by pressing Q. Also, you can take a look at these pages. If you got any questions or feedback, don't hesitate to leave a comment. I will try to reply as soon as possible. Also, all of you are welcome to help others if you can answer their questions. Okay guys, that's all for this tutorial. I hope you guys will enjoy this tutorial. Also, don't forget to like this video and share it with your friends. To watch more tutorials like this, do subscribe to the channel.